There's a lot on the agenda for congressional Republicans in Washington these next few weeks. The debt limit, budget reconciliation, resources for ICE, the expiration of Trump's tax cuts, and the energy agenda could all require congressional action very soon. So how are they going to get it done? They've gone down to Doral, Florida, and everyone heard from President Trump last evening.
There's nothing we cannot achieve as long as the Republican Party remains united. I hope you can remain united. But the Republican Party has to stick together. We just can't have people going, 1, 2, 3 votes. And we don't have that luxury. It would be different if we had a 20-point, 30-point, 30-person majority, but we don't. We have to help leadership. And, you can be assured that you have certain philosophies, that if you're going to have most of the people, almost all of them, voting for something, you're going to be okay. It's not going to be bad. You have to stick together.
Joining me now to discuss the legislative strategy ahead is Texas Congressman and my personal favorite freshman member of Congress, Brandon Gill. Congressman Gill, what is the message you took away from President Trump during this conference that you've had down in Doral?
Yeah, the message I took away was President Trump ran on an agenda. He ran on securing the border. He ran on unleashing our energy. He ran on cutting taxes, and we are absolutely going to execute. He has cast the vision for us. That's what he's been doing over the past year. And listen, this is not 2016. This is 2024. 2025, President Trump is going to execute on this agenda. And it's our job as Congress to make sure that he does. That means that, for instance, we've got to make sure as President Trump is building the wall, as he's securing our border, as he's deporting illegal aliens who never should have come into this country to begin with, we've got to make sure that he's got the funding to do that. We've got to make sure that we're providing legislative backup for him. We've got a lot in the works right now with a reconciliation bill, or perhaps 2 reconciliation bills. I think that's an open question right now. But that is going to be our job. He is telling us we ran on this agenda, we're going to execute, and you guys are going to execute as well.
We've seen reports of a plan to cut $2 trillion in spending, with a lot of that coming from Medicaid. I actually think we should block grant Medicaid to the states. Is that the strategy here?
Well, listen, there are a lot of details that we're working through right now. As you know, this reconciliation process is extraordinarily complex. I think that there's a question right now as to whether we do this via 1 bill or 2 bills. Now, regarding Medicaid, I agree with you. I think that we need to provide per capita grants, meaning we got to make sure that we're not providing federal funding for illegal aliens ultimately. Yes. That we can get around that. There are a whole lot of other things we need to do with Medicaid, though, and there are a lot of savings to be had from just cutting out waste, fraud, and abuse. I mean, why are we providing Medicaid for working age, able-bodied people? I mean, we need work requirements. We've got to make sure that we're not providing funding for illegal aliens. There are a lot of reforms that I think that we need to work through, and I think it's going to take time to get a lot of these details. But yes, that is certainly on the table.
Yeah, with President Trump saying we're protecting Social Security, we're protecting Medicare, you would think Medicaid would be a place where we could do some of those exact proposals you're talking about. I'm hearing that there are hundreds of billions of dollars in proposed cuts to federally subsidized student loans. That's music to my ears. Is that what you're hearing as well? Would you support it, and why?
I absolutely would support it. And again, that's one of the details we're working through. The cost of college has gone up about 141% over the past 20 years. That is far above inflation. We've got a huge problem here, and that's because the federal government is subsidizing it, and they don't care how much college costs, and that's a problem for us. And that means that the American taxpayer, working class taxpayers, are on the hook for degrees in woke gender studies and things that don't provide any value to either our society, our culture, or to the economy. So I absolutely do support that.
Yeah, they've done it to themselves. I mean, if colleges and universities hadn't made themselves so irrelevant, then maybe we'd be more willing to borrow money from China to send people to some of those crazy programs. But I guess we're not. I do want to get to your legislation. You've introduced the Remain in Mexico Act to codify President Trump's Remain in Mexico policy. It is racking up bipartisan support. Tell me the status of the bill and whether or not you think you can get it through the House and the Senate and to President Trump.
Yeah, well, this Remain in Mexico Act is exactly what Congress needs to be doing, which is to be taking Trump's lead and codifying his executive orders into law so that future Democrat presidents, if we do unfortunately have one, don't undo all of the good work that President Trump is doing. And I think border security has to be our top priority here. So all this does is takes President Trump's 2019 migrant protection protocols and codifies them into law. That is otherwise known as the Remain in Mexico program. It was wildly successful. Trump has already reinstated it via executive order. Right now, we have over 100 co-sponsors of this bill. That includes 2 Democrats, by the way.
Which Democrats?
I won't name them because I don't want to.
You don't want to drive them off the bill. But I think it's good. How about this, Brandon? What is the pitch you make? I mean, you've been successful in making it a bipartisan bill. That's no small feat, especially for someone who has just arrived in the Congress. What is the pitch you make to Democrats to join you in this legislation and make it durable and lasting?
Well, I think Democrats can see the writing on the wall. It's a pretty easy pitch. It's simply that we have lived through 4 years of chaos under Joe Biden. You know, we had a secure border under President Trump as soon as Joe Biden got into the White House. He issued between 70 and 80 executive orders rescinding President Trump's border policies. Democrats can see that too. Democrats are feeling the strain of open borders. They can feel the strain on our healthcare system, on our education system. They see the problems, occasionally at least, with taxing working class Americans to provide welfare benefits for illegal aliens. You know, at some point it's insulting. They can see the amount of fentanyl that's coming into our communities, and some of them are reasonable enough to know that we can't do this again. So I think that the contrast between what we saw under President Trump and what we had under Joe Biden was enough. Republicans can see that quite easily. I think that this is something that we should be able to get signed into law, whether as a standalone bill, as part of a border bill, or perhaps as part of reconciliation.
Texas Congressman Brandon Gill, the force is strong with this one. Godspeed, my friend.
Thanks for having me.